is your boy Chris with Life Support. So, this weekend's topic is going to be on how do I know I have a substance abuse problem? And, how do I go about getting sober, clean, abstinent? So, I would say in the past year, I've had probably 10 or more people call me, text me, hit me up on Messenger, and just basically ask the same question. Um, Man, I think I'm drinking too much. You know, do I have a problem? Or some even admit, I know I have a problem, but I don't know how to go about getting sober or clean or abstinent, whatever they want to do. Well, so I'm going to break this down into three parts, which all of my episodes, I'm going to break it down into three parts. Okay, so the first part, all right, of basically this topic is going to be, kind of identifying, all right, I drink too much, I use too much, okay? Then the second part, I'm going to break it down into actual medical terms and explain to you how alcohol affects the body physically and mentally. All right. And then the third part, I'm just going to talk about recovery and what you're going to do and, the long term benefits of that. Okay. Now, I have a lot of experience in this subject and in this topic. If you watched my first intro video, then you're going to know that. So basically, everyone who becomes an alcoholic or a drug addict, they all start out using socially. Okay, no one just starts out as an alcoholic or a drug addict. Okay, that's just not how it works. The way that it works is you continue to use and drink, and then your body will kind of transform into that. You basically will just build yourself up to that, and then it's just going to happen. Okay, so I will say that not all the people who contacted me were concerned about themselves. Okay. Now, other people have contacted me because they were concerned about maybe a family member, a boyfriend or girlfriend, a coworker, just friends. And what you need to know is that alcoholism and drug addiction, they do not just affect yourself. They affect everyone around you. They affect everything you come in contact with. Okay, so people will think that, oh, I'm just hurting myself. Well, you're wrong, okay, because you're not. You're destroying everyone around you, and you're making the people around you sick. You may not see it, but you are making them sick. Okay? Now, big part of my life was, Alcoholics Anonymous, all right? Now I know that there's Narcotics Anonymous. That was not something I participated in, okay? In 1935, first copy of Alcoholics Anonymous was published. You've got Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob was an MD, and then Bill Wilson, he was a stockbroker. He was also in the war. And, they, Bill was the one that had the idea, okay? After trying to get sober for many, many years, he just had this epiphany while he was in a hospital room. And he came out and just had this idea, and he said, I think this can work. So, he called her, I'll tell you the story. So he was on a business trip in Akron, Ohio. Okay, well, the business trip fell through. So he was in the hotel. Now, on one side of the hotel was a bar, okay? And then on the other side of the hotel was a phone booth, something like that. So, he was in kind of like a predicament where he was like, I don't want to drink. I would like to, maybe call some people. I would like to maybe, find some alcoholics that I can work with. Because what he came up with is that if you talk to other alcoholics and drug addicts, it's taking the focus off of you. And during that amount of time, you are not thinking about the addiction. And then you feel good, after you've done it because, now somebody else is in the same situation as you are. And basically, you're both making a pact, I'm not going to use, okay? Like, I'm going to do something positive so that I'm not using. And at this point, AA was not there yet. Okay, so back to him at the hotel. So Bill Wilson, he goes to the bar and he asks the bartender, to break a bill. Okay, you know, back then phone calls were like 5 cents. So he has like a handful of nickels, and he goes onto the other side of the hotel, and he starts reading this board. All right, like it had hospitals, churches, like, you know, numbers that. And he called every single number on the board. You know, he'd be like, "Hey, do you guys have any, you know, alcoholics there that, you know, I can come and talk to?" And you know, he kind of failed out on those except for the last number, which is where he got Dr. Bob's address, and he went and visited him. Okay, so, you know, he went there and he met Dr. Bob's wife, and she's like, "All right, he's in the study." So Bill goes in there, okay, and, you know, he's kind of telling Dr. Bob his story. And, you know, Dr. Bob at this point is kind of, you know, he's going through the jitters. You know, he's kind of shaking a little bit, you know, coming off some booze, you know, maybe on a bender the night before. And then he starts to realize, all right, this guy is exactly like me. So they sat and they talked for hours, and that is where they came up with the program idea. And then in 1935, they published the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, okay? And you're going to hear, if you're in the program, you're going to hear about something called the Good Old Timers. Now, that's like the original group, okay? Like, that's the original group of guys that got sober, you know, and then it just blew up and expanded all over the United States, all right? So that's my experience with AA, because it has been proven to work, all right? Over millions of people have gotten sober off of that. It has been proven to work. Now, Narcotics Anonymous didn't come out until, I think, the late 70s, maybe early 80s. And they're basically a spinoff of what AA, you know, what AA is. All right, so they kind of do their own thing. They've got their own little book and, you know, things like that. I can't relate to them because I've never been in the program. So this subject we're going to talk about will be at the very end, okay? So I'm bringing it up now, okay, because I'm telling you what my experience is with it and where I started at, okay? That's where I started, okay? So I knew I had a problem, all right? I just knew I had a problem because I was like a junior, senior in high school, and you're like looking around like, these people do not drink like I do. Like, I'm talking like I was straight binge drinking, like down in 1.75s of vodka. Like, you know, I was stealing from grocery stores. I would go in with a basket, fill up the basket, then dip off out the exit door where a car was usually waiting for me, and then we would take off. You know, I would have thousands of dollars of liquor in my basket. You know, Hypnotic, you know, Kettle One. I mean, all this expensive booze. You know, and it didn't matter how expensive it was because I was only drinking it for one goal, and that was to feel better and mask everything that I was feeling. All right, so now people, they're going to start off as social drinkers. You know, you're going to, wherever you start this out at. For me, I started out in high school. You know, I went to a party over by Memorial Park, and they had a keg, and there was Fat Tire in it, and that was the first time I had drinking beer. And then from that, it just kind of grew into when I went into my parents' kitchen and had, you know, the liquor, okay? And that's where, you know, I had arrived. And then from there, just the problem progressed and got worse. So you're going to say, you know, this is just a social thing. And normally it's going to start out as like a weekend thing, okay? You know, like every Friday you're getting out of school, you're talking to the homies and, you know, some of the ladies, and you're like, all right, you know, we're going to have a party and there's going to be booze there. It's going to be just a social thing on the weekends. That's usually how it always starts, all right? Then, okay, you're going to do that for a while, all right? And then something is going to happen inside your body. All right, and I'm going to explain that here in a little bit. All right, something's going to happen inside you, and then it does not become social anymore. It becomes more of a need and a want, and really a job towards the end, you know, because you're just working and struggling to get the booze, you know. I mean, it's worse than having a job that you hate. You know what I'm saying? Like one of them, like, you know, sitting in a cubicle all day, can't see the sun, you hate your coworkers type job. Like, it's worse than that. So you're going to start out social. You're going to be drinking like maybe on Fridays, maybe on Saturdays. And then you're going to tell yourself, yeah, I'll never drink during the week. Okay, I'll never drink, because I'm in school, like I'll never drink. Well, it's gonna get to that point, okay, where you're gonna drink on Fridays, Saturdays, and then Sundays, okay, and you're gonna be like, all right, this is okay, I'm good here, because it's the weekend, and you know, I don't got school, I ain't got nothing to do, and I mean that's just where it's gonna start. And for me, that's how it was. Okay, I can't speak for everyone, but I mean I've seen it in AA meetings. People have spoken, have the exact same experience as me, and I mean it's just kind of like statistically shown that's how it starts. You know what I'm saying? So then there's going to be a point. You know how like we draw lines in the sand, and you're like, I will never cross that line. You know, morally and my values, I will never cross that line. Okay. Well, what happens is we cross the line, and then we draw another line in the sand. All right, and then you're like, I'll never cross that line. Well, like 6 months later, we've crossed the line. We've drawn another line. We've crossed that line. Draw another line. We've crossed that line. All right, and that's basically the definition of progression to me. So now you're going to be, it'll be like Sunday, and then, like Monday night comes around and you're just kind of like, well, I kind of like, like might want to have a couple beers, maybe take a couple shots, it ain't that big of a deal, and then you're going to do that. Okay. And now you've basically broken all of what you said you were going to do. Okay. And then from Monday, it's going to happen on Tuesday. It's going to happen on Wednesday. And then you're going to realize that, like I said, it's not social anymore at this point. It becomes more of a need or a want to do. Now, you might not feel that way. That may not have happened to you that way. There's other ways that it's going to happen. Now, there are three definitions of drinkers, okay? There is, basically that social drinker, all right? There's like kind of a moderate drinker, and then there's a heavy drinker, all right? And now those people, like, they drink a lot, and somebody probably knows one or two of those. I would say probably everyone knows one or two of those. But the difference between them and an alcoholic and an addict is, like, let's say something like there is a very severe consequence, they're going to stop. They're going to stop at that point. Let's say they catch a DUI and have to sit in jail for a few days. They're going to stop at that point. They're going to say to themselves, damn, I'm in some trouble. I need to stop and cut this out. Okay. Now, social drinkers, I mean, they just go into a bar and they're there for conversation and to meet with people. They're going to have a couple drinks and then they're going to be done and they're going to go home. And that's it. Okay, they may just do that on Friday. They may not do it Sunday. They might not even do it the next week. The next weekend or the weekend after that. You know what I'm saying? Like my parents, like they hardly drink. Like if my dad or my mom had drinks, like my mom would have maybe a margarita. My dad, honestly, I really didn't see my dad drink at all, to be honest. And he doesn't drink period now. So that's, to me, that's just normal, okay? And you're kind of like, well, what's normal anyway? Well, on this topic, that's normal. That's social drinking. Okay, now moderate drinking is going to be, somebody that's going to be, like, yeah, drink on that Friday and Saturday, and they are like drinking because they kind of want to feel tipsy, feel good, and that's the point to them drinking. But when that Friday and Saturday is over, they're done. Okay, they're done. And yeah, they're done. So the hard drinker, they're drinking because they want to get smashed. They want to have a good time. And like I said, when a severe consequence happens, they are done. Okay. Now with the alcoholic and the drug addict, okay, none of that matters. All right, like you're going to start out social, then you might be moderate, and then you might hit heavy drinker. Or you might start out social and basically jump all of that, to alcoholic. That's kind of how I did it. All right, I was a social drinker, then moderate, and then I completely jumped over a heavy drinker and went straight to alcoholism. Okay, and that may be, but that's like the best example, and everyone should be able to relate to that. Okay, so that's like the first thing, is relating to those three things. All right, and technically four because alcoholism in there, but we're not there yet. Okay, we're not on that topic yet. So basically, we're going to relate as a social drinker, a moderate drinker, and a heavy drinker. Okay, so right now, if you're watching and you're not sure, look at that. Is that how you drink? Do I drink like a social drinker? Do I drink like a moderate drinker, or do I drink like a heavy drinker? Okay, now a lot of the people who called me are kind of in the heavy drinking stage, and that's usually where you're going to get where you're going to realize, okay, maybe I have a problem. Social drinkers and moderate drinkers, they don't get to that stage. Like you're not going to realize you have a problem having 2 drinks a month. Like that doesn't happen. And moderate drinkers, drinking every weekend, but only drinking like 2 or 3 drinks, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, like you're not going to come to that conclusion either, okay? But a heavy drinker who's getting smashed Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, yeah, you're going to probably have people around you saying, hey man, like you need to slow down. I think you might have a problem. And that's how a lot of people feel, like, especially if you're married, like your wife is going to be around you all the time, and she's going to be like, yeah, you're kind of acting a fool and you're drinking a little bit too much, or, you're snorting a little bit too much Coke, I mean, I'm not just trying to specifically talk about alcoholism, but it's for the people that have called me, that is pretty much what all of them were having struggles with, was with alcoholism. But, just think that this relates exactly the same to drugs. People start off social. Like, you're going to smoke a little weed. I did in high school. I smoked a little herb. Not everyone does. There's a lot of people who do, and then they stop, and then they go on with their life and go to college and then get a job and then have a family. Like, yeah, that's just what happens. And like people that are kind of moderate, like they may still continue to smoke throughout their life, and then like you're gonna have a heavy user that, yeah, is gonna smoke throughout their life, or do cocaine throughout their life, maybe smoke a little heroin. That's the thing. Like it's kind of weird that like somebody is using methamphetamines and smoking heroin, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm just a social user. Like that's kind of odd, because these are hard illegal narcotics, and you're kind of like, well, how are you a social user snorting methamphetamines and smoking heroin? Like that's, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I get that. I understand that. Okay. Now, everyone, people are going to use ecstasy and snort a little cocaine, and there might be a situation where like you're at a party and someone has some heroin and you smoke it and try it for the first time and you're like, oh yeah, this is pretty good, and you may try it a few times after that, but that's it. All right. Now there's going to be people that first time that they smoke it, they're like, I love this, and this is what I've been looking for, and then that's where the progression will begin. Okay. They're going to do the same thing. Oh yeah, I'm only going to smoke this on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the same thing happens. Okay, now we're going to hop to where it affects you mentally and physically. All right, now drug addiction is a double-edged sword. All right, now on one side of the sword, there is something called the obsession of the mind, which is mental. All right, now on the other side of the sword, there is something called allergy of the body. All right, so let me explain the two. Now, the mental obsession is basically, you are always thinking about booze, cocaine, heroin, and you're like, I want that. I need to use it. Okay. Now, the allergy of the body, that only occurs once you put the drug or alcohol in your system. The allergy of the body cannot occur until that happens. Okay, now the obsession of the mind, that can happen anytime. It doesn't matter. Like you can wake up out of your sleep and like be thinking, I need a hit of meth. I need, a shot of dope. Yeah, it happens anytime. Now, the allergy of the body, once it enters your body begins to crave it, and it's like, I need more. I need more of it. Okay, and then that's where the problem is That's where the problem really, because then you're like drinking until you black out or until you pass out because you're just like, I got to keep going. Like this isn't enough for me. I got to keep going. And like when it got really bad for me, I was basically drinking until I passed out or until I blacked out. Um, and yeah, that's where it gets to a lot of people. And that's why there's drug overdoses. It's because people will continue to use because they're not getting the same effect as they did before. Now that's the thing with drugs and alcohol is they affect your tolerance. And that's another thing I want to talk about. Like, so with a tolerance, you know, now you may hear this that like when people like do their first drug, like they get this amazing high that they will chase because they'll never get it again. And it's true. It's true because I have experience with that. Like it's gonna be like clouds open up, oh, like type high, and then you're never gonna get it again. All right, but like you're gonna chase that so you can get it. Um, and then you're just gonna keep using and using and using, and like your tolerance is gonna build. Like a month from now, let's say I'm using, a couple bags of heroin now. Well, a month down the road, those couple bags may not do to me what they did at that time. I might need 4 bags now to get high. Same with alcohol. Like you're going to drink, let's say, you know, 4 or 5 shots is going to get me drunk. All right, well, maybe a month, 2 to 3 months down the road, that's like drinking water for you, and you're gonna need double that to get drunk. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, you'll see some people that will transition from beer to liquor because the beer isn't doing it for them anymore. You know what I'm saying? And you'll see people transition from wine to liquor. Typically, wine or typically is kind of like the last stop for somebody. Like for me, I know when I had money, I was buying like bottles of Patron, Grey Goose, things like that. But towards the end, I was drinking like Papa vodka, like the cheapest vodka you could get, Barnett's, I mean, all the cheap stuff, because I spent all my money drinking, constantly drinking. And it's going to be the same with drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just going to keep using and using and using, and you're going to blow all your money. And then you're going to get to the point where it's kind of like, yeah, none of this is working for me anymore. And then you're going to like maybe switch up your drugs a little bit, Like if you're doing meth, you may add a little heroin to it, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe add something else like with heroin addicts, for example. Like they're going to use until they just can't get high anymore, and like now they've started using fentanyl because like super powerful, it's pretty amazing. I personally can't say that I've used fentanyl. Out of everything that I've used, that surprisingly I haven't like regularly used that. I've had it a couple times like surgeries and things like that, but I haven't used it because it scares me. It scares me because that could be like instant death. You know what I'm saying? It is. So now, like I said, I've explained the allergy of the body and the mental part to it. Okay, and those two things together is what makes an alcoholic and an addict. All right, that is what separates you from a social, moderate, and heavy drinker. They do not have that symptom. They do not have those. A social drinker is going to drink, okay? And he's going to be like, oh, yeah, I feel good. Done, go home, go to bed, get up, continue his life, okay? And he's not going to have the obsession of the mind where he's going to be at work and thinking, dude, I can't wait to get off work so I can go drink a bottle, smoke some crack. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not normal. And same with moderate and same with heavy. Now, heavies, it's kind of hard because, they're thinking, yeah, I can't wait till Friday gets here so I can get smashed. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I mean, I've got buddies that do it, and yeah. But the thing is, they don't have the allergy of the body, Okay, they might have a little bit of the obsession of the mind, but they don't have the allergy of the body where once they drink it, like they can't stop. Like once you drink it, you can't stop. Now, let's say you're in your addiction for a while and you try to stop. Well, you can go into a bar and test. Like you might be able to have a couple drinks and leave. All right. Now, that is where that is so that's how the addiction is so cunning and baffling. Like it is going to get you in ways that you are not going to expect at all. All right, and I've done this millions of times where I could go into a bar, have a couple drinks, and then I would leave. And what are you doing after you do that? You're stroking your ego. You're stroking your ego, and you're like patting yourself on the back, like, yeah, man, I only had a couple beers. Like, I'm definitely not an alcoholic. I can control it. Wrong. So you might be able to do that for a little while, but it is going to turn into more. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to say, well, if I can have a few drinks, what's a couple more? I can control that, okay? And that's where the cunning and baffling part comes in because, like, you're not even aware of what you're doing or what is actually going on. And then like 4 months down the road, you're just trashed. All right. And you're like sitting in a bando and you're like, oh my God, how did I get here? How did I get here? Like I thought I could control this. Like, how did I get here? Okay. And that happens. Like people are gonna say that, yeah, I've done that. Or people right now at this very moment are doing that. They think that they can control their addiction or their alcoholism when the truth of the matter is they cannot. Okay? Like alcoholics and addicts, they think that they can survive on self-will. Well, I'm sorry. But once the obsession of the mind and the allergy of the body started, your self-will just run riot and you got no self-will. You can't do anything about it. Okay? So now we're going to jump now to the last part of, how do I go about getting sober? Okay? Now, how do I do that? Well, there's a lot of things out there, guys. There's, like I said, Alcoholics Anonymous, there's Narcotics Anonymous, there's Celebrate Recovery, which is like a church Christian-based recovery where they do use the 12 steps, but then they kind of like put in some of like the Bible and things like that. That was never my thing, but like if that's your thing, hey, that's great. Now there's Smart Recovery, which you can just get on the internet and you can like talk to people in chat forums and you can get online and like, hop into like FaceTime feeds and things like that. And it's basically a different approach to, Alcoholics and, Narcotics Anonymous. I tried it once. I can't even remember what it was, but like I was like super resentful to AA. Like I just was so resentful, and I was like, yeah, I don't even need it. I can do this Smart Recovery. This is legit. Yeah, I think that lasted for like maybe a week, and then yeah, that didn't last very long. So I mean, there's a lot of programs out there that you can check out. Now, I get it. Like, you're going to walk into that room and you're going to be extremely nervous. You're going to be embarrassed. You're going to probably sit in the back, probably not say anything, probably hope that no one sees you or calls upon you to talk. I get it. I see people like that all the time come into meetings. I did it myself, because like at that point, like you think that you're like at your lowest. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe like that I would ever get to this. Okay? Now, only problem is everybody else in that room has been where you're at and has the exact same issue with the allergy of the body and the obsession of the mind. The only difference is they may have different drugs that they've used or might have drank a different, they might have drank beer. Well, this dude drank just gin, or this dude just drank whiskey. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Everyone is in there for the exact same reason. Now, there are people that are going to be in there because they don't know whether or not they are an alcoholic or an addict. Okay, I get that. And that's why I'm doing this episode. So what I would suggest to you, and the thing is, you're going to need to take suggestions, because when people are giving you suggestions, they're not trying to lead you wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like they're giving you suggestions because those are suggestions that they were given, and the people that gave them to them were given those suggestions, and that is what, kept them sober. Now, it is important to observe while you are in meetings, okay? Because there are going to be people that are going to be full of shit, and they're not sober, they're not doing the real deal, they're not working steps, they're not honest, okay? But they're going to lie, and they're going to like paint this picture that everything is really good. You need to observe, okay? Now, usually at the end of a meeting, they're going to ask, hey, who can sponsor? And like a bunch of hands are going to go up, okay? And like I said, you need to observe, like after a meeting, like socialize, okay? Socialize with these people. And you just ask around too. Be like, hey man, like who's super legit in here and, you know, could help me, could work with me. People are going to point you to the people that are legitimately legit and will get you to where you want to be. All right. Like, so my sponsor, Tim Privatera, like anybody that says his name in AA in Omaha, they're gonna be like, yeah, I know that dude. Yeah, I know that dude. He's legit. Like he does exactly what the big book says, and he's been sober 17 plus years. Like that tells you something. That tells you what he's done is correct. Okay? Now, if he wasn't doing things that were right, more than likely he would be back out using. That's usually what always happens. Okay? So that's one suggestion. All right? Going to AA or NA, and that's how you're going to approach it. You're going to get online, all right, and you're going to look up, hey, where are these meetings at? Okay? Now, they're going to be open and closed meetings. Okay? Closed meetings, you've got to be an addict or an alcoholic to attend those meetings. Now, open meetings, I mean, there's going to be all sorts of people in there. You're going to have an addict or an alcoholic in there, and they may have somebody sitting next to them that's just a family member or a friend, and they're just there to support them. Okay? So at the beginning of a meeting, you're going to introduce yourself, all right? Like, yeah. So, I mean, if you're there not to talk, like, you don't have to say anything. You can just say, pass, But, like, if you want to get help, you need to make it known that, hey, I'm new. I think I have a problem. I'm not sure if I have a problem. Can you help me? Closed mouths don't get fed, okay? And if you don't want to do that, then that means you really don't want help, okay? Like, and there are going to be people that they don't want their time wasted because they're working with other guys. Like I know my sponsor probably at one time has had like 5 to 10 dudes he was sponsoring at a time, which means he doesn't have time for bullshit. Like if you're going to call him up, and be like, hey man, like, I want to get sober. And he tells you, all right, well, I want you to read this, and then I want you to call me back the next day. And you don't call him back? Hey, man, he's done. And he ain't going to call you. He ain't going to call you and be like, hey, bro, why don't you call me? Like, that's not his job. Your job is to call, reach out for help, and then his job is to give you the directions, the guidance, and, the suggestions. And then you take it from there. And then it's up to God or whatever your higher power is. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? You dig me? So now, like I said, that's one way. I'm getting off track. It's my ADD. So getting off track. Now, another thing that you could do that I would not suggest doing is I completely forgot what I was going to say, but basically, it's controlled drinking or controlled using. Okay, I would not suggest that. Now, what that is basically what I talked about before. Trying to go into a bar or trying to get drugs and thinking you can control them. All right, control your use. Whatever it is, like, people do all sorts of crazy stuff, like when you have money, like some dude like might put like $100 in one pocket and then like 500 in the other pocket, and then he's like, okay, this pocket is only gonna be for drugs and booze. Like that's all I can spend. This money over here is for my rent and my utilities. All right. Well, now the problem with that is like once that 100's gone, then like another 100 is going to go over here. You know what I'm saying? And then by like the end of the night, all the money's gone, and he's like, "Damn, like that didn't work." You know, like I got tricked. So I mean, that's one way, like control drinking. Like, so, like, let's say you're a liquor drinker, but you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to stick to beer because beer's not that bad. Or I'm going to stick to wine because wine's not that bad. Or I'm only going to drink on Sundays. That's it. I'm only going to drink on Sundays. That's controlled drinking and drug use. I don't suggest it because it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all, especially if you're an alcoholic or an addict. Okay, if you're a hard drinker, it may not work either. All right, but like if you're a moderate to social drinker, they don't worry about that. They don't have to. Okay, so those are a couple things that I could suggest. There are a lot of other things I could suggest, but the one thing I did suggest about going to a meeting is something that I know works, factually based that it works. Over 1 million people have gotten sober. So I'm going to stay on that. I'm going to stay on that topic. So you're going to log on to the old internet and you're going to look up, you know, AA meetings in Nebraska, AA meetings in Maryland, you know, and like an intergroup page will pop up, okay? And you're going to be like, all right, well, let me see if there's a group tonight. So you're going to scroll down, you know, and there are going to be times from the morning till at night. Okay, you know, there's going to be morning meetings, there are going to be nooners. Okay, there are going to be night meetings, and there are going to be late night meetings. Like I know when I lived in Kansas City, Kansas, they had an 11 o'clock at night meeting, and it hit midnight. You know, and then afterwards we would go play spades and just hang out. And that's the beauty of the program. You know what I'm talking about? Is because not only are you guys just together in the meeting, but afterwards, like they do a lot of stuff together, like go over to somebody's house, watch music, watch movies, listen to music. Some like have a card game that they play every week, and you'll go over there and play cards. You know, these people do a lot of things together. You know, go on road trips. You know, go to conventions. You know, and you're going to build some relationships, and some of these people will become your best friends, and they will become lifelines for you. Okay. Now, another thing that I would suggest after you find a meeting is find yourself a sponsor. Like I said, so you're going to ask, hey, man, who's legit around here? You know, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, that Tim Primatera dude, you know, he's hard. He's legit. All right, so you're going to approach this person and you're going to say, hey, man, like, I don't know if I'm an alcoholic or an addict, and I need help. Okay. So what they're probably going to do if they're legit and they know what they're doing is they're going to probably say, hey, man, do you have a big book? All right. And a lot of times newcomers, they don't. So what they're going to do is they're going to probably get you a big book. They're going to find one for you. All right. They're going to go out of their way to do it. You know, like Tim will probably be like, bro, are you actually going to do this? You know, because like I ain't getting you a book if you ain't going to do it. You know what I'm saying? So if you're serious about it, they're going to give you the book, and they're going to tell you to read the forward editions, and then they're going to tell you to read the doctor's opinion. That's usually always how it goes. And then they're going to say, hey, you read the doctor's opinion, and you tell me if you relate to anything in that. Now, at the very beginning of my feed, okay, all that stuff that I told you is basically out of the doctor's opinion. Okay. Now I'm not here to spit AA at you. I'm not here to holy roll. I'm just here to tell you what works for me and how I got sober and 1 million other people got sober, and how it is beneficial to your life and how your life will get better over time. Okay. You know, like when I first came in, my life was terrible. I was at bottom, rock bottom. Okay. Like I was probably below rock bottom. You know, I was like underneath bottom of rock bottom. You know what I'm talking about? And then after months and months went by of working steps and becoming honest and mending relationships and making financial amends, things just got better, you know. And AA isn't like a solve-all thing, you know. Like you're still gonna have like your personal issues and your personal problems. Like, you know, you may not be using, but like you're still gonna have rough days, and you know, yeah. And now I forgot about one thing, and that is you could try to white knuckle it. And when I say white knuckle it, I mean not going to any support groups, and just basically locking yourself in the house and not drinking and trying not to drink. Just basically relying on self will. You could try that. You could try that. And some people are successful for a couple of years. I know some people have gone 20 years doing it, but the mindset never leaves, um, because you haven't coped with it or trained it to. Um, and usually people are going to be miserable. Even though they're not drinking, they're probably going to be miserable, and they're going to tell you, no, I'm not. My life is awesome. But honestly, I've done it, and I wasn't happy at all. I was like dying inside. So that's another thing you can do. But anyway, guys, we're getting towards the end of the feed. We're at the 40-minute mark. So I hope this helps somebody, and if you want to reach out, underneath the description, I'm going to drop all my social media accounts. I'm going to drop my personal, not personal, but it's going to be a private email if you want to stay anonymous and stay in the shadows. That's cool. Make sure to share, like, subscribe. I'm trying to think when I'm going to do my next video. I don't know. I know Valentine's Day is coming up, so we are going to hit relationships. I think that's perfect. So, yeah, guys, I hope you liked it. I hope it helped you. I hope it answered your questions. If you have any questions that I didn't hit on, message me, okay? Drop comments below, or you can just message me, through Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, doesn't matter. Just get a hold of me. And if you really want my phone number and talk to me and are seriously legit about doing it, I will give you my phone number and I will hook you up with people, because I'm in Maryland right now. I'm not in the Midwest. So if you're in the Midwest and you contact me and you're a female, I'm going to connect you to a female that has been doing the deal and probably has more than 10 years of sobriety. If you're a guy, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll probably throw you to Tim, and then Tim will probably hand you to whoever he thinks is going to best benefit you. All right? So, I think that's about all I got to say, guys. So, like I said, hope you liked it. Tune in next week. I think we're going to hit on the relationship topic. I think next week we're going to do grief and loss. Me and John, check him out at Street Psychologist. And then I think the following week for Valentine's Day, we're going to hit on relationships. So, yeah, guys. Anyways, have a good weekend. Stay safe. And I will see you guys later.